Happy St. Patrick's Day. You know what we did? We brought in an Irishman, well, half Irish, half Scottish, to decide what are we going to do with Cam Smith? The dilemma. What do we do? The Astros have got a lot going for them in 2025. Let's get going right now.
Buenos dias. This is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett HTown Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros. We hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on X at Eric Talks Astros. Find the show at Locked On Astros. Your team every day. Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at HTown Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok, at Stros411 on X, on Facebook, and on Instagram, and at Back to the Bullpen on YouTube, on iHeartRadio, on Instagram, and X, where, look, I'm always positive, always Stros. And we got our friend with us, Patrick Creighton. You explained to me you are half Irish and half Scottish, but happy St. Patrick's Day to the Irish side of you, sir. Tell us where you come from. Tell us about your show and all that stuff.
Well, Lottie, happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well, yeah. I got your port of gold, you got your pints of whiskey. Everything's in it to go on, aren't you? So, I am, my surname is of both Irish and Scottish etymology. You guys probably figured out that I'm a little more than just Irish and Scottish if you've ever listened to my show or heard my accent or know where I'm from. So, Patrick Creighton, Area 45, Sports Radio 610, weeknights 7 to 11 p.m. I host that with Sean Bajani. And, of course, you can get me on the good old X at PCreighton1.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Patrick. And, guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go and check us out. Go ahead, subscribe to us. We're trying to get to 14,000 subscribers. It sounds like a lot, but we've worked really hard. So go and help us get to 15,000 subscribers. But we got to get to 14,000 subscribers first. There's a little red button down there that says subscribe. That's all you have to do. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So, Brett, I know that yesterday we talked about Cam Smith. It feels like we talk about Cam Smith a lot. It's kind of like Monarch Money. You're trying to figure out how to win now and try to save for the future, so to speak, because arbitration, and try and save some $1 million down the road. But the resistance to not have Cam Smith on the opening day roster has got to be really hard right now, especially with the way he's hitting right now. I know that it's Will Kuno of Fox 26 came out with a post today on X and basically said that per source, they're pretty confident that Cam Smith is going to be on the opening day roster and that he'll be playing every day. And Patrick, I believe that you responded to that, right? So,
and look, I know Will Kunkel is a great dude, and I have no reason to ever not trust the stuff that he reports. He said that he was told Cam Smith has a good chance to be on the roster. I just don't know what good defines. And, is a good chance 20%, 30%, 40%? I don't know, and I don't think that's been clarified. But overall, I just kind of have a lot of issue with this, in that the Astros are not a poor. They're not a trash team. They're not a bottom feeder. They're not hurting for attendance. They're not a dumb organization. They're not any of the things that you associate with unnecessarily rushing a prospect forward. And again, we're not just talking about rushing a guy forward. We're talking about a guy who this time last year was playing college baseball. We're talking about a guy who now has more at-bats in spring training than he does as a professional above high A. So let that sink in for a minute. He's got 26 at-bats in spring training. He's got 19 at-bats at double A. And we're talking about having him start on the major league level. And not only start, but start a position that is not his usual position. That prior to what he's played, 12 innings in spring training in right field, he had maybe 18 innings in the Cape Cod League a few years ago in right field. That's his extent of being a right fielder. So Cam, here's what we want you to do. We want you to basically make the jump from high A to the major leagues in one off season. Oh, and I want you to learn a new position at the same time. Isn't that a little unrealistic for, I don't know, freaking anybody?
Yeah, I think that's valid, and that's really where I've been, and I've almost gone back and forth. I try to be objective, not put on the homer hat, not put on the because as a fan, that's short for fanatic, as Mike Stanton always says. But I try not to be fanatical about this, and I highlighted this in a tweet that I put out earlier. And Eric, I want to get your take on this, because I think because the Astros are where they are in losing Tucker and in losing Bregman, I'm wondering if that's creating a little bit more of a sense of hyperactivity in the minds of the front office. They're like, whoa, look, he just hit a tank off a major league pitcher. He hit it opposite field. He's doing this, he's doing that. He made a diving grab. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Astros haven't been in this championship window position like they are, losing two franchise players, a top 15 guy in Tucker, a cornerstone in Alex Bregman. I think that's creating more of this feeling of an expediency for Cam Smith. Eric, what do you think about that?
Well, I think the Zenzo is also creating a hard issue. He's already made his debut, like I talked about yesterday. He is the arbitration clock has already started with him, so he's having a hot spring training himself. He doesn't have the pedigree of Cam Smith, but he can go out there, start season, play right field, and then you can go ahead. If he struggles a little bit, then you could bring Cam Smith down, maybe towards the Super 2 deadline. Then you also have the thing where if you I think it's a PPL or whatever you call it, PPI, if the incentive where if you bring a player up and he wins the Rookie of the Year, you get a prospect draft pick. So the Astros are considering that, but he's just doing so well this year, and this may be an opportunity. I know the Astros have done it before with Jose Altuve, but the difference is he played second base. This wasn't a totally different position. And this is something I've been talking about, Patrick, is that you're asking him to play a totally different position and learn major league pitchers. It's a big ask. Now, can he do it? Sure. I think that he's 22 years old. Maybe he could do it, but it's a lot to ask in his rookie season. And so maybe going down to AAA to AA would help him. But the Astros are at this point where Chas McCormick, he's not performing well this spring training. He has some minor league options. Jake Myers is going to be out there because Altuve is in left field. He's going to be the general. He's going to be saying, you need to be here, be there. And so he's going to be over there coordinating traffic. So you've got to have Jake Myers out there. So Chas McCormick may be the odd man out.
I think there's a couple of things that are important to note. And a lot of what you just said, Eric, is totally spot on. Number one, Hunter Brown still qualifies for the PPI because once you're eligible, you stay eligible until either A, you win, or B, you hit arbitration. So since Hunter hasn't hit arbitration, if Hunter were to, say, win Cy Young this year, they would get that PPI pick, and you can't get more than one in one season. So, if Hunter were to win Cy Young and Cam were to win Rookie of the Year, we still only get one pick, but you burned both of them. And as long as he's on the roster by April 15th, I believe is the cutoff date on that. But again, kind of what you were just talking about it's not so much about starting the clock as it is, are you ready? And you're learning a new position. There's a couple of recent examples of prospects who were rushed to the major leagues. High-end prospects, high first-round picks, top 100 guys. One is Jared Kelenic, who the Mets gave up in the Robbie Cano, Edwin Diaz deal. He was the prize of that deal. And then one is Joe Adell from the Anaheim Angels, or whatever they call themselves this year. Both of those guys were early first-round picks, top 100 guys, top guys on a depth chart as far as prospect rankings. Right. Both were rushed to the major leagues way too early.
100%.
And to this date, Kelenic's now on his third team because he went from the Mets to the Mariners, and now he's in Atlanta. And I believe he had a sub 300 on base last year. He's going into his fifth season. And Joe Adell is now, 5 years in? And he's been a disaster. And that's a guy who has every tool in the book, and he's been a disaster. When you rush guys, you put them at risk to, stunt their growth, stunt their development. And I know Stan Durham on the chat going, Albert Pujols. Well, Albert Pujols is a first ballot Hall of Famer, multi-generational player. And to expect anyone to be Albert Pujols, who made the jump from Double-A up, to be Albert Pujols is kind of insane. I mean, it's like, hey, this guy's going to be like Babe Ruth. No, guys, we have to be realistic about things. The Astros are not desperate. Okay, you got to teach this kid how to play right field consistently. All right, you do that at Double-A. And while he hits Double-A, and I think he'll tear up Double-A pitching, and he learns right field, that gives you the chance, if Zach DeZenzo is not going to be on the roster, well, Zach's going to be playing right field in Triple-A. Because if they want both of those guys to learn right field, they can't both play on the same team.
Right.
And believe it or not, well, DeZenzo's a little bit further advanced than Cam is. Why? Because he's had more years of professional experience. And that's really all it is. I'm not saying DeZenzo is going to be better than Cam. What I'm saying is right now he's got more experience and he's more polished and he's had more time. Cam needs a little bit more polish and a little bit more time. Now, that doesn't mean that if he smokes Double-A pitching April and May, that he can't be in Sugar Land by May and June. And if he's smoking it at Triple-A in May, June, July, he won't be up here in July, right? They're not at a place where they're so desperate, oh, my God, we got to get somebody to play in there, that they have to rush this kid. Right. Let him learn how to play the outfield. The bat is there. The bat will come. Let him get exposed to what real pitching he's going to see, right? We're also about, the toughest pitching in the minors is what you see at Double-A, right? Mm-hmm. Double-A guys have the best stuff.
That's true.
He's had 19 at bats. So, we don't need to rush, and you talked about Jake being in center, and Chas hasn't hit. Chas has walked a lot so far in spring training, but he hasn't hit.
That's true.
And that at least tells me he's not getting himself out by overextending the strike zone. He's not getting himself swinging at bad pitches. He just hasn't quite found a swing yet. But if the eye is there and he's taking the pitches and he's getting on base and he's not overextending the zone, the swing will come. If Chas hits like 2023 Chas and plays center field, he's an all-star. Because anytime you have a center fielder at 849 OPS, that guy's an all-star in this league because there's not a lot of center fielders who hit. And to me, there's really, and if you go back and look at the metrics, I think 2022 was the last time Chas had enough center field time to use the metrics on. And Jake and Chas, their metrics, very similar. Jake is slightly better, but it's slight. And if Chas can find the stick and hit like he did 2 years ago, Chas should play center field and Jake should sit. Yeah, I know. Look, Jake is a terrific defensive player. Jake had 3 weeks where he hit the snot out of the ball last year, and he had 4.5 months where he couldn't hit a beach ball. The 4.5 months kind of overrides the 3 weeks. So, I know they have a love affair with Jake, but the reality is Chas really isn't much of a downgrade defensively. And if Chas hits like he did in 23, he should play. If Chas doesn't hit, he's got an option, but he's also in arbitration. If he doesn't hit, he's not just in danger of being optioned. He's in danger of being DFA'd.
Right. Yeah. So, hey, guys, thank you for making us your first listen. We'll be back in a second.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to Locked On Astros. I want to tell you about our friends at justingredients.us. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at checkout for 20% off. And look, I can show you right now. I have busted into my Just Ingredients protein powder. I just busted into this today, the pre-workout. Let me tell you, phenomenal products. And I'm not a big chocolate shake guy, but this is great. Why? Because it's Just Ingredients. It's changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free of substances banned by major athletic organizations. It's actually sponsored by Bryce Harper. Just Ingredients also has partnered with him because he trusts the NSF certified sports product, clean and transparent ingredients. I love Just Ingredients. I love the taste. It was phenomenal. My first shake was a home run. Whether you're recovering after a workout or you need energy boost, like for today, a 3:00 show with the grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout, deliver real results. So just go to justingredients.us/Bryce-Harper and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your order. Let me say that again. justingredients.com US/Bryce-Harper and do that. Also follow them on Instagram at just.ingredients for more. Get Just Ingredients and you'll get pumped up. Also, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Monarch Money is your CEO or CFO in your pocket. No longer do you have to go to the bank or go to your bank account and go, where'd the money go? Why? Because you got a personal CFO right there, all in one app. You don't have to go to 3 or 4 different apps. It's all in one place. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all accounts, investments, and spending in one place. And what better tool to use than you and your partner getting side by side and saying, look, we can share our accounts. We know what's going in. We know what's coming out. And then all the collaboration you have, you can go on more of a vacations. You can go to more Astros games. Heck, you can go stand in line for that bobblehead. Why? Because you've got Monarch Money right there in your back pocket. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Make us first listen, Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go and check us out. So I know the Astros are going to make some decisions. I know that if you look at the bullpen, a lot of them are going to probably decide on who has options. If you have some of these players that are out of options, if you have them up, or then you have some of the players coming up, like if Forrest Whitley starts the season on the IL, or some Ort, or some of these other guys that are likely going to come up, McCullers at some point. You're probably going to have some of these guys like Luis Contreras, maybe some of these other guys make the team that have options. So that's the situation that you're looking at with the bullpen. But with somebody like Chas McCormick, he does have the options, but at the same time, I don't see them sending him down to AAA to work on things. That just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. But Cam Smith has made that little statement. He's shown that he's ready. But at the same time, I hear what Patrick's saying. Maybe he needs to go see some more pitches in AA, then earn his way up to AAA. And then later in the season, where he can still qualify for the PPI next year, then you can bring him up at the end of next year, and then he can become rookie year next year. But the Astros, at this point, they have DeZenzo. They have some other options that could play right field for right now if Chas McCormick does not click. I'm guessing that's what you're saying, Patrick, right?
So I think that we're talking about Chas, and the reason we're talking about Chas is because Chas is arbitration eligible. So Chas is making more money than just the major league minimum, right. And Jake is still making close to the minimum. So if both guys are not going to hit, then I think the organization's preference is to keep Jake Meyers because he is a little bit better defensively and he's cheaper. Now, when you get into Chas, because he's arbitration eligible, that's the hindrance on him. So for him, he's got to hit because now he's starting to get paid. If he doesn't hit, it's going to be one of those, okay, you need a change of scenery, and he's probably going to be out of here. He's going to get traded or he's going to get DFA. I would think they could find somebody who would pick up Chas on the idea of, hey, here's the guy who can play all 3 outfield positions defensively and has hit in the past, and he's still relatively cheap. So I think you get something for him, not necessarily a ton, but somebody would have interest in him, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You got interest in Miles Straw, for crying out loud. You'll get interest in Chas McCormick. So, yeah, and that's really kind of what it comes down to. For Zach DeZenzo, who's had a little bit of experience playing left field the last couple of years, he's had some reps. now getting to play some right field, some reps. Doesn't have a ton of experience in the outfield, but he's had more than Cam. And, it's another guy who came up as a shortstop. So, he's got the arm to play. He's also had a really good spring. He's also dirt cheap. I mean, you could kind of look at it from these two perspectives, right? You want both of these guys to get more experience in the corner outfields. So one's going to go to AAA and one's going to go to AA. They're going to work on their defense. They're going to continue to hit. Eventually, they're going to get a promotion to the major league roster. If you are considering, hey, we could have both of these young guys up and playing the outfield, well, now you're talking about completely changing the entire dynamic of your team from what it was opening spring training. Because if you're talking about both Zach and Cam making the roster, then both of those guys are starters. Because we've heard Joe Espada say they're not going to make the roster and sit. Well, that means Jose Altuve's got to go back to second base, where he's played 5 innings this spring. Now, not that Jose can't just pick up a second base glove and be fine, but that's essentially what you're doing, is just saying, okay, our left field experiment with Jose is over. Jose back to second base. Zach, you're in left. Cam, you're in right. Throwing dice. Because that's the only way that works.
Yeah, and I had talked, Patrick, about this and kind of what Eric mentioned and what you're talking about as well. AA, you're right, has the toughest pitching. I think Cam nothing but benefits from more time. Of course, I'm going to trust the Astros. Ultimately, if they decide that Cam is going to be on this opening day roster, I'm going to have to trust them. Now, I may not like it or agree with it 100%, but I've got to trust where they're at. The only problem I have with that is you're not going to imagine sending Chas to AAA, and let's just say Chas lights it up the first 2 weeks in AAA, and then Cam is kind of scuffling a little bit at the plate. Then you replace Chas with the future star or the future cornerstone in Cam Smith, the aircraft carrier. What are you going to do to that kid's psyche? What are you going to do to his confidence? Now, he does seem like a poised, well-rounded young man, and that we can see from his interviews how he carries himself. But what is that going to do? Because Cam Smith did mention in an article that he does pay attention to social media. He is hearing what everybody's saying. And so that baseball, a lot of times, it has nothing to do with the hands or the eyes. It has everything to do with what's between the ears. And that's what I think separates good players from great players. And I want to get y'all's take on that on the other side of this. But first, we want to talk about our friends at supplyhouse.com today. Guys, get the supplies you need from the site for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Look, my father's a semi-retired master electrician. If he would have had this back in the 90s or in the 2000s, I guarantee it would have boosted his business. But he's actually already checked out supplyhouse.com and using it as a semi-retired professional. That's right. Your trade pros are looking for that extra edge. Their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks with a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Hey guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go and check us out. And Patrick, there's a comment. I can't seem to find it, but we have Lance McCullers. He's going to make his spring debut tomorrow as part of a piggyback with Spencer Arrighetti. Lance McCullers hasn't really pitched much since 2023. He missed all last season. So they ask, what do you predict his effectiveness will be? And I guess on top of that, what do you expect from Lance McCullers this year?
I think right now, I don't think we're really concerned about how well Lance pitches. The most important things are, number one, his velocity, his last few bullpens has been 94. 2 weeks ago, it was 90. And he told you, I'm not trying to chase the velocity. I'm just getting my work in, and it'll come. So I'm not really concerned about Lance's velo. I think his velo will be fine. He might be a little rusty with his command. The important thing is that he's getting his pitches in. That is the one and only thing I care about in his first spring training start in a couple of years. His first spring training start. He goes out, he gets you his 30 pitches, and he's able to throw the fastball. He's able to throw the curveball. He's able to utilize all his pitches and doesn't grab his arm or, start shaking his elbow like he can't feel anything. Be healthy, get your 30 pitches in. That's all I care about right now. As he starts to make more starts, then we'll start to see the pitch count ramp up. When his pitch count gets up to 55, 60, that's what I'm looking more for. All right, is the sharpness of the break there, on the breaking ball? Because when his curveball is on, that thing just snaps straight down.
Right.
And as opposed to when it's not, it kind of has that wiffle ball float to it. When he's got that nasty snap, he's in. Like, he's locked in at that point. So that's kind of what, when he gets to that point. Right now, this is just go get your work in, go throw your pitches. We're still in the ramping up stage, not the, what does my performance look like stage. That being said, I think that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you.
Go ahead.
That being said, I think that we're probably looking at Lance getting back to the major league team end of April, early May. And historically, when he has come back from injury, he's looked like Lance. He's never had a year where he comes out and he's got a 5 ERA coming off an injury. He's always pitched well when he's pitched. So, I would expect Lance probably have an ERA somewhere in the mid threes and still strike out a batter an inning and still walk a few guys because that's what Lance does. And probably be something close to a 5-inning pitcher, maybe 5 1/3. Obviously, he's going to have an innings limit, probably about 140 innings. And if he doesn't come back until the beginning of May, and they use a 6-man rotation for various stretches of the season, he probably will be right around 125, 140 innings at the end of the year. And at that point, you get into the postseason and you're setting up your rotation for the postseason. You're probably going to look at and say, okay, how well has each guy pitched? Is Lance going to start? Is Lance going to piggyback with somebody else? And we'll probably see some tandem starting because you're going to have the same thing with Luis Garcia, who's about a month behind Lance right now.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's all about pitch shapes, right? Mike talks to me about this all the time. If the ball's not moving, if it's flat in the zone, that's when stuff gets barreled up. Miguel Castro started off really flat pitching, and his pitch shapes are actually changing and more dynamic. Logan Van Wy, his pitch shapes. Logan Van Wy, that back foot slider is devastating to right-handed hitters. I mean, Logan Van Wy's been absolutely phenomenal with that, and that's what you want to see out of Lance. Can he move the ball in the zone? Keep it in the zone, but move it to where it's missing bats. That's what you're looking for. Again, velocity, missing bats. He's retooled himself a little bit. He's not going to go out and try to be the flame-throwing Lance that he has been. And he has, to his credit, said, I've learned a lot about who I am as a pitcher. Patrick, I like where our pitching is. I love where the bullpen is and everything. But real quick, before we have to exit, you are going to have to announce the lucky winner of the 2 Astros tickets and parking pass for Tuesday's game, Astros versus Space Cowboys. Might I add, they are actual club seats, and they're behind home plate. So do you want to go ahead and do that, Patrick, and then we'll finish up with the Alvarez going second or third. We'll talk about that.
Wait. So you got club seats, behind home plate, and a parking pass.
Yes, for Tuesday's game.
He's going to call himself the winner.
All right, Patrick Creighton is the winner. And and I'm going to have an auction to see who wants to who wants to ride shotgun with me that day. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so pick a person at random. Let me just quickly scroll through here, and Ben8483.
Oh, who is this? Hold on. Ben, okay, say that again. Ben, right here.
Ben8483. I just scrolled up and down and landed on him.
Ben, we need you. Ben, we need you to respond. Are you in Houston and can you go? We need you to respond like ASAP. Are you in the Houston area? Because you've been selected as the winner. He'll let us know as soon as he lets us know. If he can't, then we've got to shotgun it to somebody else. While we wait for Ben. Oh wow, cool. Okay, but is that wow cool I can go, or wow cool I wish I could go but I can't go? I need to know, can you go?
It's a yes or no.
If you're in Idaho, the travel's on you. Okay. Oh yes, I'm in Angleton. Okay, it is for the Tuesday game, Astros versus Space Cowboys, before they start the opening season next Tuesday. Not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. That is actually March 25th. March 25th. If you can go Tuesday, March 25th, let us know. So Patrick, while we're trying to decide that, Alvarez second or third or fourth, or does it matter? He's Yordan Alvarez.
He's Yordan Alvarez, but the most, if we're going to go with the, hey, we use analytics and we want to find the best way to be successful, then Yordan's going to hit second. And he's the best hitter on the team. He's the highest on base on the team. And statistically, batting third gives you the most 2 out, nobody on situations in baseball. So I'd like to not have so many 2 out, nobody on situations for Yordan Alvarez. If Jose Altuve is hitting like Jose Altuve, well, he's close to a 400 on base guy too. That means 40% of the time, Yordan's going to come up in the first inning with a guy on base and have a chance to, make a pitcher cry. I like when Yordan makes pitchers cry. That's fun.
Yes.
Also batting second, he's going to get more at bats because look, when you're at the top of the lineup, it's going to turn over a couple of times and, it's not going to go all the way through, but he's more likely to get that fifth at bat than he is the further down you go. So I want more opportunities for Yordan to hit. So I like Yordan in the 2-hole. In fact, I like the top 5 to be Altuve, Yordan, Christian Walker, Paredes, and Yanner Diaz.
Definitely. I love that. And Patrick, we can actually go a few more minutes. Awesome, Ben. So Ben, do this. Actually email me. I'm going to give you my email address. That way you can send it to me directly. And then we'll kind of keep this conversation going for a few more minutes. Patrick, if you can chill with us for a little bit longer. I don't know if you've got any pressing issues, maybe find some gold pots at the end of rainbows today or not. Not to be stereotypical about St. Patrick's Day. But Ben, go ahead and email me at chancyedge@gmail.com and I will forward you the tickets, but you have to have the MLB app because I can forward you those tickets and the parking pass as well.
Hey, I've already gotten my corned beef for the day, so we're good.
There you go. That's right. Hey, corned beef. Look, man, not a massive fan of it, but when it's cooked right, it's really, really good. Corned beef, some corned beef and cabbage, if I might add. It's a good little Irish meal, I think.
Yeah, although I do prefer corned beef and pastrami with Swiss on rye. Make yourself a nice big Reuben. That's
nice. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
Marble rye if you can get it.
Exactly. So Patrick, as our fans will see coming out, I think on the 24th, we have the AOS preview coming out for Locked On, and what do you know? The Astros we were targeted. Just the Astros being present triggered the Locked On Mariners guy, triggered the Locked On Rangers guy. And the opener was, we're going to tell you why the Astros will not win the AOS this year. That was literally how they led the show off. We had shots fired from the Rangers guy saying that we have won a title in this championship window, which they didn't say 2 titles. I made sure he understood history on that. So I'm going to ask you, since we're here, this AL West, I think, is going to be a lot more fun. It's not going to be the AFC South of Major League Baseball. I think the Rangers are going to be highly competitive. The Mariners, I don't know. I know their pitching is outstanding. The A's are going to be really good, I think, this year for what they have, and they may scare some people at some point. And, hey, who knows? The Angels may catch fire because Mike Trout, if he stays healthy, they've got a young team. I think the AOS is going to be not the bottom of the barrel this year. What do you think, and how do you think the Astros fare in the division?
Well, fortunately, there's the AL Central and the NL Central to be bottom feeders.
True.
So don't have to necessarily look at the AL West for such a thing. Teams from Arlington should try to, make the playoffs 2 years in a row before they start talking about how wonderful they are and things like that. They should also stop grabbing each other's junk. Teams
I
from
knew
Seattle.
that was coming. I knew it. I knew that. I was like, oh no, here it comes.
Teams from Seattle should stick to drinking coffee, since they will never ever go all in and try to win, because that's their MO as a franchise. They're a fake franchise. Look at how great our starting pitching is. Let's have no offense. Man, that worked out so well. Let's do it again. Good job on being the 2014 Mets. Congratulations. Are the Angels going to do anything? Well, let's see. What do the Angels do other than kill their own players? They do nothing. They do a lot of drugs and they do nothing. And Mike Trout is going to stay healthy. Like, I'm going to go pick up Jessica Alba for our hot date in about 25 minutes. So, not worried about them. Actually, the homeless A's are probably the only team in the division that you think might have a chance to surprise. They played pretty well in the second half of the season last year. They got some guys who are young enough to not know any better of, hey, we're not supposed to play this well. I'm interested to see how the minor league stadium they're going to play in Sacramento is going to impact how well they pitch, how well they hit, how well other teams pitch and hit there. That is a big unknown. Their stadium factor is totally unknown right now. But I could see them making a run at 500 and being better than the Halos. And
dude, let me tell you, man, you just eviscerated the AL West. You're like, oh my gosh, put a pipe in it and smoke it. That was brutal, man. Like a brisket at a championship barbecue at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, or like a backstage fire at a Journey concert in NRG. You just lit the place up. Oh man, don't stop the music.
Yeah, we didn't even get to that point.
Fire backstage. I know.
We didn't even get to that part of the song.
I know.
So they got like two sentences in, and the power cuts out.
Well, what's funny is several radio hosts were there, and they're all like, Paul Gallant's like singing in the background, and I'm like, I know, like in the back of their mind, if they're me or if I'm there, I'm singing like they're letting the whole stadium go a cappella, then they're gonna rock back in with the guitars and the drums, right?
And that's what we all thought, right? But all the screens on top of the stage went dark, and the stage went dark.
Okay, so it kind of looked like it was systematic almost.
So the only thing that's lighting up the stage are the spotlights. And Arnel Pineda, who's their lead singer, he's like pumping up the crowd. As soon as their power went out and you couldn't hear him anymore, the crowd just kept going, and they sang, and they just kept singing until finally security comes out and takes them off the stage. Wow. Didn't even bring the trucks out or anything. They just ran them off the stage. And at this point, we're like, what the hell is going on? Like, they don't have power.
Right.
And then, they announce, hey, due to a, electrical issue, there's no power to the stage. They're working on getting the power to the stage back, and we'll restart the show up as soon as we can. And then 15 minutes later, due to an electrical fire, we cannot restore power to the stage. Thanks for coming. Get home safe. And I'm just like, I felt bad for the announcers, because they had no info. Yeah. Like, there was nothing. They had no idea what was going on. They're just like, all right, crap, what do we say? Type of thing. So it was one of those situations where nobody really knew what was going on until they're like, okay, there's a fire. Now, when they turn the lights back on, you can see the arena is filled with smoke. Wow. Now, they haven't been lighting off any fireworks. The arena is filled with smoke.
That's insane. Okay.
You don't see where it's coming from anywhere. It's just filled with smoke. And you'd think people like, oh, there's a fire. We should leave. Nah, everybody's hanging out. They're chilling. They're shopping. They're buying stuff. They're sitting. But yeah, we all thought when the power went out, they were just letting the crowd sing, and then they were going to jump back in. And unfortunately, that is not what happened. By the way, shout out to the crew at NRG Stadium, who probably pulled a full overnighter to fix the stage, redo the soundboards, redo the electrical panels, and get everything back up and running for the show on Saturday, so they didn't have another disaster.
Well, Patrick, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's not something I thought about. And one of the things, independently, as I come from my home studio, I have minimal equipment. Not minimal. I mean, I don't have the apparatus that they have there, but guys, your producers on your radio show, anybody that does anything broadcasting wise, it takes a lot of people that never really get the pat on the back. They're not the Zach Tops. They're not the Journeys. They're not the superstars that get all the cheers. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. And you know what? Look, I know we're into 39 minutes here, but I've got to ask you, because we got fans saying, I wonder what Patrick thinks about the Yankees and the Dodgers. Do we dare go into that territory, or are we in dangerous waters if we let you sound off about them?
Oh, we talked. Do you want to first start with the South Bronx slumlords, or do you want to start with the LA boner bumpers?
Let's go slumlords first.
All right, so hold on, the slumlords. Let me see what member of the slumlords just went on the IL today, because that train is never late. What has been the biggest issue for the Yankees? They're always hurt, and their offense is, outside of last season when they had Juan Soto, their offense is Aaron Judge and a bunch of randos.
Right.
Well, what does the offense look like this year? Aaron Judge and maybe a bunch of randos.
DJ LeMahieu.
Does Jazz Chisholm count as more than a rando? I mean, he played really well in Miami and then got to the Bronx and didn't quite play so well. It's a little harder to hit when there's actual expectations on you.
Right.
Is Jason Dominguez going to be able to actually DH? Because God knows he can't play left field.
No.
So, I mean, I've seen guys drop baseballs before. I've never seen a guy drop his entire glove when the ball came. And, I mean, every time.
An alien. They do call him the Martian. So
yeah, because he catches a baseball like he's never seen one before because he's from Mars.
Yeah, it's this interstellar theme.
And if you're a pitcher and the ball goes out to left field and you see him there, you're just like, please, baby Jesus, anything. Let it hit him in the mouth and stay there. Just don't let it fall. You have no idea what you're going to get. And you can't play. You can't, especially left field in Yankee Stadium. Left center field is called Death Valley. It's 399 feet to the left field power alley. That is the biggest left field in baseball. If you can't catch a baseball out there, it's a triple. So, I don't know how they work that. They'd be better off having him play right field, where it's 314 feet down the line.
Right.
Because you don't have to cover a lot of room. You've already seen Aaron Judge can kind of cover center field. Judge would be better off playing left because he's capable of ranging more than Dominguez is, who might not be able to catch a ball if it hits him square in the face.
Right. No, exactly.
As far as the boner bumpers, God knows they've spent more money than, the bottom 6 teams in baseball combined.
Right.
So even when they have a ton of injuries, they should have – they're kind of like Alabama right now, right? You got a 5-star guy behind a 5-star guy behind a 5-star guy. So even if they have injuries, they ought to be able to fill them. But there is nothing that says when guys come off the bench that they're just automatically going to hit like they always hit. They haven't played before. So there is certainly the possibility that the pressure of the expectations, because their expectations are, win every series in a sweep. Mm. And if they, struggle, or if there's a specific team that gives them a hard time, there's going to be a lot of pressure there. And I'm interested to see how everybody handles that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They should be the favorite to win because they've got 2 all-star teams. You got a U.S. all-star team and a Japanese all-star team on that same team.
100% accurate.
But look, we've seen this before. The team that is the best isn't always the hottest in October.
That's true. And look, I've said it, and I'll wrap it up on this. Patrick, this has been great. I mean, you are definitely getting our fans fired up. I'm usually the firebrand here, but you've actually taken that mantle, and I gladly sit back and let you eviscerate our opponents. I love it because I catch it on the chin daily on social media, but I choose to wear that hat just like this green for St. Patrick's Day. But I say this with the Dodgers. If they don't win, if they don't break the Seattle Mariners record of 116 or 115 wins and win 116 or 120 games, and if they don't win the World Series, then I'm sorry, their $1 billion, $20 billion money deferral experiment is a failure. I'm being a little cliche. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek. But with what they've done, they've actually set themselves up to do nothing but fall. and they won fair and square. I was pretty ticked off that the Yankees didn't give them more of a run for their money getting there with Juan Soto. I thought it should have been a 7-game series, but the Dodgers were clearly king of the hill. But this is what I love about the Dodgers, I think, future demise. All the stars, Patrick, they didn't go to the AL. They went to the NL. So now they can all beat each other up. The Tatis Juniors, the Sotos, the Tuckers, and all of them, they can all beat each other up and get a wounded duck from the National League. And hopefully that opens things up. If the Astros catch fire and catch the world by their tail in the postseason, that could doom success for the Houston Astros, where nobody's really counting on them to do anything this year.
So much what you just said is so accurate, because the NL West and the NL East are behemoths.
Oh, yeah.
The Astros, the Mets, and the Phillies are going to beat the snot out of each other. And even if you think the Dodgers are still far and away the class of the NL West, the Diamondbacks probably still, if they're not the best offense, they're the second best offense. They were the best offense last year. The Diamondbacks can score. And they will pitch better this year. They've boosted the rotation again. And I would expect Jordan Montgomery is going to be better this year, having had a full spring training. And, I think he and
that helps.
And Blake Snell both realized, spring training, that's important. We should
it means something. Yeah. Practice. We're talking about practice.
So I think that is something that they will be better. The Padres are still good. Even though they've got to sell some guys off, they are still a good team. They can still pitch. They can still hit. The Giants are better. I am very interested to see how this season goes for Justin Verlander.
Oh, me too. I mean, he looks really good this spring, Patrick. And maybe this changes scenery in San Francisco. Maybe he has kind of a late bloom career type year, because the last couple of years, really, ever since he went out the first time, it's really not been great, right? It wasn't anything from 2017 to 2022 where he's been the last couple of years. So I kind of want to see him get off to a good start. I would love to watch him beat the Dodgers, beat the Padres, those in-state rivals.
I'm a Verlander fan. I'm always going to be a Verlander fan. I was a Verlander fan when he was still in Detroit. I'll tell you, in 2017, I was advocating for the Astros to trade for Verlander as early as May, because the Tigers stunk in 2017. And some former Astros beat writers told me that I was crazy. It's never going to happen. The Astros will never spend that kind of money. And then when it happened, I texted one of them if he was, quote, on the bandwagon with me yet, talked a little smack on him. And he didn't talk to me again for 3 months. So, I may or may not talk a little bit of ish, but I'm always going to be a Verlander fan. I didn't think Verlander really fit on this team because of the injuries, the way they've been piling up.
Yeah.
I hope that he has a great season in San Francisco. It's a terrific pitcher's park. The only weakness in that park is left-handers basically pulling it right down the line. That is the one place where you can get, quote, the cheapy home run. Not that it's a short porch, but that's where the wind blows out.
True.
If you're a lefty right down the left field line, that's the JT Snow special. Barry hit them, 100 feet into the bay. JT would just get them over the fence. So,
right.
But that's where you get it. And in that division, everybody but the Rockies hits. So it is a very tough division. So I'm a little concerned about how well Verlander is going to fare facing those kind of lineups as often as he is. But I hope he kicks ass. I do. I hope he kicks ass.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, Patrick, this has been great. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here at Locked On Astros. Look, man, we went and extended like 20 minutes extra, but I love it, and I know our fans love it. I mean, everybody that's in here, again, Ben, congratulations. I know he saw the memo. He's going to be contacting me. We'll get him the tickets. So thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Astros. This has been this has been like probably our best St. Patrick's Day vibe that we've had on any St. Patrick's Day. So Patrick, thank you for bringing the luck of the Irish to Ben, and thank you so much for being a wonderful radio host here in Sports Radio 610. And hey, can I tell him about tonight? Or do you want to?
You know what? We got a few guests on tonight, but we got a special one coming on around 9:40 p.m. and you're looking at them.
Yeah, not him, me. HTown Wheelhouse can be joining Area 45 on Sports Radio 610 tonight. Y'all make sure y'all tune in and listen. From myself, from Eric Huysman, everybody here at Locked On Astros, and Patrick Creighton, y'all have a good one. And as always, go Stros. We are, oh man, I missed it. There we go. See, Eric usually does that. I couldn't find the graphic. We out. And we end the live stream.